Just 4 weeks after being sworn in, President Trump is tackling a very ambitious legislative agenda and trying to deliver on his campaign promises. At his press conference yesterday, Mr. Trump outlined some of his items that the administration is checking off its list. Let's see what it is.
Let me list to you some of the things that we've done in just a short period of time. I just got here. I got here with no cabinet. We've withdrawn from the job-killing disaster known as Trans-Pacific Partnership. We've directed the elimination of regulations that undermine manufacturing. We've stood up for the men and women of law enforcement, directing federal agencies to ensure they are protected from crimes of violence. We've ordered the Department of Homeland Security and Justice to coordinate on a plan to destroy criminal cartels coming into the United States with drugs.
It appears the president has a key ally in Congress who supports his legislative goals. Here's Speaker Paul Ryan.
What I did during the transition with my counterpart in the Senate, Mitch McConnell, is we put together a 200-day plan for the president to get this agenda that we all have agreed on through the system. And we're exactly on track and on our timeline with that agenda. Getting Congress to act on all those things you just said in 1 year's time, unprecedented. We do these things. This will be the most productive presidency and Congress in our lifetimes.
Meanwhile, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says GOP lawmakers will move forward with key items on the president's agenda, even without bipartisan support.
Well, it's clear that in the early months it's going to be a Republicans-only exercise. We don't expect any Democratic cooperation on the replacement of Obamacare. We don't expect any Democratic cooperation on tax reform.
Well, I almost read the tease there, as if the block was already over, but it is not, and we have much to discuss.
Very good. That's a very good thing that he did that. I'm Mitch McConnell.
Yeah, are you going to take that one on the road?
No.
All right.
Too lazy.
Eric, 4 weeks can feel like 4 months because so much has happened. Like we used to say, long days, short weeks.
We used to say that.
I used to say that. Now I don't say that as much anymore because my days are not as long.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Wow, welcome to Greg Gutfeld is seriously the brother I never wanted. Okay, there's a 200-day agenda. They started to lay it out. I think that one of the things, Eric, that people are maybe in the media that would look at the progress so far and say, well, there are no 1,000-page bills that are expanding the role and the size of government, therefore they're not doing anything. Which would not be the case.
So 4 weeks and 5 hours into a presidency, and look, we have a media that's focusing on this little event or the constant back and forth he has with the media. But when you peel that away, look what else is going on. He talks about the regulations that he rolled back, which he did. But we also have tens of thousands of jobs that are committed to staying here. We have billions, tens of billions, if not hundreds of billions of dollars committed in investment coming here. The stock market is up 10% since he's been elected. Consumer confidence at 6-year highs. The jobs numbers, the first one under President Trump, it blew away expectations on the number of jobs created. So there are two things I think he does well. Number one is he gets out in front of the people the way he did today and probably will do again tomorrow afternoon, I hear. And also, he loves to make deals, and he talked quite extensively about his Boeing deal today, that he's going to save money with Boeing, he's going to save money with Lockheed Martin as well. And I'll tell you, when he boarded that plane, you could tell he was just in his element. He likes that as well.
I think it's good to get out of Washington, D.C. once in a while, Jillian. Like, get out of those 4 walls and hit the road, and the press goes with you no matter where you go.
Once you get over like your blood pressure dropping and you get over the headache like I just did this afternoon after coming from D.C., it's great. I love being outside the town. But what I was going to say is that I think the president also just needs to be a little bit careful when he talks about his accomplishments like he did earlier today. He talks about things and what he does is talk about directives that he's given to the federal government. And I would caution that, ordering people to do something is not the same as accomplishing something. So, for example, ordering the Department of Defense to present him with a plan to defeat ISIS is absolutely not the same thing as defeating ISIS. So there is a gap. I think the president gets an A+ for ambition and for his intentions to go forward with these big reforms, but you definitely can't declare victory yet on a lot of these things. There's a long haul ahead. A lot of the initiatives he's got in mind, he's going to have to work with on the Congress to get through. So I would just temper the rhetoric a little bit to start laying realistic expectations for his supporters.
Well, I think it's interesting. I was thinking about how, so he has the press conference yesterday. Everybody's still talking about it. which is basically providing cover
Yes.
for the Republicans to go and do all the little detail work.
Yeah, he creates his own distractions. I call him he's the Penn and Teller presidency. The best kind of illusionist is where you do something with your left hand, so somebody's looking at your left hand, and then your right hand is doing a bunch of other stuff. And right now, what did his right hand just do? He just got Scott Pruitt confirmed. Probably the leading critic of the EPA is heading the EPA. That's like appointing Michael Moore in charge of pie. But, I mean, it is. But it is.
There's a
better analogy than this over this. You remember the old snowball trick, where you throw one snowball really high, and while you're with the other guys looking at it, you pelt them straight ahead with the snowball in the forehead. That's what he's doing.
I would never do that,
Everyone's
Eric.
watching the media and this whole fight he has with the media, and he's creating jobs. He's getting promises. He's getting people through his
But it's a blessing and a curse, because you see, like, in one way you get the Scott Pruitts through, but another way people don't know. Like, there was this story that we know about Flynn. The fact that the intelligence says that they listened to the phone calls. There was nothing in there that would be wrong, and nobody's talking about that because we're too busy talking about other stuff. It was brought up here and there, but we should have led with that, but we didn't.
Well, meanwhile, Speaker Boehner and Mitch McConnell are like scurrying off into their corner offices and furiously drafting up new Obamacare repeal and replace Obamacare legislation, tax reform. Like, they're lining it all up.
So, Juan, the other thing that Mitch McConnell said today is that once the fever breaks for the Democrats, he thinks that they're going to want to come to the table. But do you see that? I mean,
not yet. And Mitch McConnell also said that he thinks this is going to be a Republicans-only deal, that the Democrats are basically following the Republican script of obstruction. So he's not counting on Democrats coming to play ball with him. But to me, I mean, even when you look at what's going on, I'm reminded that yesterday the president said his administration is a well-oiled machine, all right, like a precision Ferrari just roaring down the road. And to me, it just strikes me as like, wow, well, that's an alternative reality, alternative facts, alternative reality. Because I think from the media point of view, just yesterday, you know, he gets turned down by the guy he wants to replace General Flynn as National Security Advisor.
We're going to have a whole segment about that.
Right. So I mean, this is the ongoing. And you think about it, conservatives have even complained about the fact that tax reform that had been promised, gee, that doesn't seem to be in place yet.
But Eric, what you're seeing to that point is that Speaker Ryan was pretty specific, saying at the retreat that they held in Philadelphia, I think it was the last week of January, they said, okay, Mr. President, here's a 200-day plan. And they say, the Speaker's office says, that they are meeting all of those benchmarks. At first, the President said he wanted to tackle regulations. That's been done both from an administrative level and on the Hill. Then next is going to be Obamacare. You saw some detail come out about that today. And, of course, there's going to be infighting on that. And then the third thing will be tax reform.
Yeah, and Speaker Ryan said that that's the way it has to be. You have to pick and choose. Do you want Obamacare first or tax reform? You can't tackle them both at the same time. And I think Donald Trump's base was promised Obamacare repeal and replace, so they'll probably take that on. But for me, I mentioned the stock market and all these really good economic numbers a minute ago. Those are based on that tax reform happening. And not happening in 18, happening now, this year. So once they get through that Obamacare repeal and whatever they come up with for replace, they got to jump immediately right into tax reform, both on the corporate level, the repatriation level, and also on the individual level.
I think that's why it's a problem that this week there was so much focus on the static having to do with Flynn and with the Russians and with the pressure from Congress now, and I specifically want to call attention to Republicans in Congress, especially I'm thinking the Senate in particular, who are saying we have got to dig into this. We're not going to form a select committee. There's going to be no independent counsel. We're not going to get the new Attorney General to recuse himself, but gosh, we are going to look at it because I think they see that their numbers and whether or not they are able to keep the Senate majority in 18 is separate from what happens to Trump, and they don't want to get weighed down if Trump and the Russia scandal grows.
There's one last thing that I want to talk about before we leave, Greg, and that is that we've
Your haircut?
Very nice.
Yeah, very nice.
Are you supposed to bring that up?
No, yes. Anyway, she had a haircut.
Anyway, I did get a haircut today. So Neil Gorsuch is the Supreme Court nominee. Okay,
aware of him.
But there are hundreds of possibilities for district and circuit court judges that you could start seeing pretty quickly, too, which will probably shore up the Republican base.
I think everybody's got to relax. Like, I think that what's the rush? It's like your 200-day plan. I don't have a 2-day plan. I don't even know. I don't know what I'm doing after this show. I might walk home. I don't know. But 200 days, everybody is panicking, and it's day 20. What, day 26? And the magic word, the magic word is turmoil. The administration's in turmoil. The country's no. But for most of America, politics is not personal or professional. It's just something that they tune in.
Also, they don't do it all day long.
You want to see. Yeah, exactly. You want to see turmoil. Look at Venezuela, look at Cuba, look at the beacons of progressivism. We're doing fine, and you have a new, different kind of person in charge. It's a little crazy, and it's not as bad as people say it is. It's not as great as people say it is. It's okay.
And everyone is more energized.
Yes.
Whether you're happy or
no,
disappointed.
Yeah. It's easy to get out of bed.
There's not a lot more energy.
Yes.
Which is a good thing, I think.
And if there are any Democrats that are in a rush, any Democrat lawmakers that are in a rush, you could come in next week instead of taking next week off.
Ooh, zing.
Well, they got to go back home so that they can rally
They have to go to their
protesters.
districts and connect with their
with
constituents.
The don't they take like insane amount of time? Don't they take several months?
Just wait. When you are the senator, when you are a senator, you're going to say, "Oh, I get it now. Why you need to go home so you can see your people."
Your peoples?
That's going to happen. Peoples.
Peoples?
Whatever.
Man,
Friday.